Has Lex Luthor finally outsmarted Superman? We'll find out as we finish our discussion of All-Star Superman. Welcome to the Oblivion Bar, a safe haven for all DC comic fans. I'm your host, Khalid Hill, and today we are finishing up our discussion on All-Star Superman, written by Grant Morrison with art by Frank Quitely. This is the second video in this series, so make sure you click right here to watch the first one. So guys, what were some of your favorite panels in the story? Robbie?
So my favorite panel is right at the very end where Superman has to go and restart the sun, essentially. So he goes, says goodbye to Lois Lane, flies up and then goes straight into what is now the blue sun. But it's specifically him rebuilding the heart, essentially, or building an artificial heart for the sun. And it's him half clothed, he has got that big lever in his hand and all those mechanisms around him, and he's in the center of the sun. I thought that was beautiful.
It almost looks like an American mural. How you would see those really big. It looks almost exactly like
Superman in the sun.
Yeah. He was definitely very cool divine looking in that picture, which was super cool. Super cool.
I liked where he was thrown into the moon and it looks like the moon just splits in half. You're just like, oh my god. The amount of force that you would have to throw a person to do that is unreal. And so it looked cool.
Mine would have to be it wasn't even a specific panel. It was the cover art for issue 10, where you have Superman basically holding the world in his hands and just looking over it. And you know what? I think for people that just know of Superman but don't know about Superman, they might see that as pompous or almost arrogant. But the art, how Frank Quitely drew it, it really looks very endearing, like he's caring for a child. And
that's how I took it too.
Yeah, it looked really, really cool. It wasn't I'm bigger than the world and better than the world. It's this is my planet. They took me in and now I'm going to take care of them.
I personally love Frank Quitely's art. My favorite scenes are of when Superman is dead and his consciousness is on Krypton, and you see all the pink mountains and the spaceships, and they're all wearing crazy space uniforms, and then they fly straight into the red sun. That whole scene is just beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, not to go too far on the art, but I just got distracted by how many facial lines, and I wasn't sure if they're supposed to be wrinkles or cracks in people's faces. I'm wait, people shouldn't have cracks in their face unless they're dark side. And it's just, I got a little lost in that. But before we continue on with the book, Joe, tell the audience about this special beverage we have here today.
Well, this special beverage was brought to you by Rockhouse Brewing. They are our first brewery sponsor, so I'm going to go ahead and say thank you all for that one.
Rockhouse.
They did a collab with Mirror Twin, another local brewery to the Lexington area. It is the Lemon Blueberry Witbier. Okay, it has lemons and blueberries in it. The ABV is 5.5 and the IBU is 15. I taste the wheat. I taste the lemons. I taste the blueberries. I think it's a pretty good beer. It's definitely an easy drinker that I could drink for a long time.
Yeah, they just definitely give you everything they say they're going to give you. It's you take a drink and you're like, yep, blueberry, lemon, wheat beer. Yep, they hit it. That's it. And it's not too overtly sweet. And so it's one of those ones that you wouldn't have to have just one and then switch to something.
It's also not overtly tart from the lemons, and I appreciated that too.
I think it's a really good summer beer. Wheat beers are typically considered, kind of summer beers, but I appreciate, I think, the lemon the most because I'm a huge fan of sours.
Yeah.
And it's not too overpowering, but it's just enough to get you that little bit of almost a sour flavor.
It's right there at the end.
Yeah. Because it's nice and refreshing, then you get that little bit of sour, and you're okay, yeah, I want more of that.
Yeah.
I think overall, I'm going to have to give it a 6.5 Black Kryptonites.
Okay.
For me, I think it's going to be 7 Superman robots. Because number 7 is the one that sacrificed himself. But we'll talk about that later.
I will also give it a 7. I'll do 7 Sun Eaters, though. It's pretty solid beer.
It's a good one.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty solid above average beer. All right. Thank you, Rockhouse, for giving us this beer and sponsoring today's video. But jumping back into the story, this book is all about including just as much of the Superman mythos as it possibly can. What was your favorite inclusion of Superman's mythos in this book, Ethan?
Bizarro world. And it's not even really that hard for me to choose in the second half because Bizarro World plays a big part in the very beginning of the second half, and every part of it is just done super well. You see the cube-shaped world, and then you get on there, and all but one person is speaking in the Bizarro language, and if you're not like reading it with all of your attention, you're just not picking up anything that they're saying because they just really went for the Bizarro world like aesthetic. You really feel like you're there, and you're like, man, I like don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, that was me. The whole time I was on the Bizarro world, I was like, I just can't understand this, and I can't do it. I was struggling so hard reading through it.
I had to find a time. I was like, all right, I can't read this right now. I need to focus. So I got to pick another time.
Yeah.
I did like that part, though. I especially liked the cube. I think my favorite part was the new, or I guess you could say old, Kryptonians that showed up while Superman was gone to the Bizarro world.
Yeah.
They were really cool. I liked the conversations that they had. Oh, this is how it needs to be. Where are the gods? We need to do this. And Superman's like, no, this is how it really is. This is what it's like to be human. This is what it is to be a life form in a galaxy even. And just the conversations it was really good to me.
He really teaches them that by the end of it. I would have to say, along with that, is my favorite part is when Superman talks this young lady jumping off a building, which is, we see that in TV shows and movies, but I feel like that's classic Superman. He's that shining hope, and he is that character that will go up, show you and tell you not everything is as bad as you think it is, and then embrace you at the end of it. I loved that.
Yeah, I think that's a super important thing specifically for like if you're encompassing all of Superman. Like you said, that's like a pinnacle Superman moment. So I think that's super important. I have to agree with Ethan, though. I love the Bizarro world stuff. It's so wacky. It's so ridiculous.
It's bizarre.
It's one might say it's bizarre. But I specifically loved Bizarro, and that he's the guy that's on Bizarro world, and he's the only one there that really speaks or like thinks like a regular human being. He's like the defect in their community, and he just like he's into poetry and has all this other stuff, and again like has like interesting thoughts, and everyone else just does not understand him, is not on the same wavelength as him. And this is literally the epitome of you are the only thing, like you are by yourself, no one understands you at all. And it's just like, that's really rough. But at the end of the day, he, gives up that one spot on the rocket ship for Superman to go back, which I thought was very noble of him.
My favorite character is Steve. He's the guy that in the end was so happy that Clark was back after, he was actually on the Bizarro world. And he was like, everything is going crazy. Da, 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 da. And the office has been so boring without you. I don't have anyone to poke fun at and all this other stuff. And I was like, ooh, I have that guy in my office.
Dude, I feel
when Clark died too, he was the one that was over top of him trying to bring him back to life.
He was like, I don't know CPR, but I'm trying.
Who was your favorite character, Ethan?
I loved Superman Robot number 7. He felt so bad about having Lex Luthor like come into his mind and take the superpower serum from him so that Lex Luthor could then recreate it and make himself Superman for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. He felt so bad about it that later when they were fighting this giant Sun Tyrant that was going to kill Superman, he sacrificed himself in order to save Superman and the world. And how Grant Morrison makes you feel for an unnamed automaton, I do not know. But
you want to pour one out for your homie, don't you?
So sad.
Oh, man. Yeah, my favorite character is still going to have to go to Miss Nasty. I just think
you and Miss Nasty.
Miss Nasty, she's a real one. Like, that's my girl. I mean, she's just so bent on world domination, but at the same time, she's just quirky and weird. She rides in on this super tank and has this weird hat on, and I just laugh at her. I don't think she can accomplish world domination, but she just has this attitude that makes me like her. Like, I feel like I can hang out with her. So
that part where she's talking to her mom, she's like, yeah, I'm in Lex Luthor's evil hideout. No, I'm not going to tell you which one. And then Lex comes in and she's like, Mom's mad at you.
She was a quality character. All these are quality characters. But this story is really talked about like it's the ultimate Superman story that there is. What do you guys think of that statement? Is this the ultimate Superman story?
It's not my favorite Superman story. Granted, I'm like the newbie. I haven't read as many. I've only read like Red Sun. I love Red Sun. That's my favorite Superman story.
Definitely. Red Sun's the best.
But I do think it is incredible in how it encompasses like the entirety of the Superman mythos, or like as much as it can within 12 issues. Like, I think it's the ultimate Superman story. If you want to know about Superman, like, boom, you go to All-Star Superman and you get the most out of it. You must beg for your buck, if you will.
That's kind of my thoughts on it too. Ultimate in the fact that, you know, it encompasses the history of Superman and what Superman's supposed to be and who he is, and it kind of gives you an understanding and kind of gives you a very sped up course of all the mythos and everything like that. It did a really good job. It just was not my most ultimate favorite one.
Yeah, I think what this book sets out to do, it accomplishes perfectly. And that's to really show the Superman character for what he is and what he can be, like the ultimate Superman story. Mm-hmm. This is him at his best. This is him doing everything we think he can and then some.
With cancer.
Yes. And then dying and then coming back and then sacrificing himself 3 panels later. It's just Superman at his best. I usually prefer stories where the characters are a little more humanized. This story doesn't do that as much because it's so focused on making him out to be that perfect being. And so it's not my personal favorite story, but I do think for what it sets out to do, it does super, super well.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I wouldn't call it the ultimate Superman story. But yeah, I think that because I think it has that title of all-star because you take this writer like Grant Morrison, who you can tell whenever you read something by him, he has a lot going on in his head and he fits it into so many pages. And he really does and accomplishes, not perfectly, but very, 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 very closely, just, you know, everything that is Superman. And I liked it in that regards. How do you think this book depicts Superman's impact on the world around him? Joe?
I mean, I think it depicts it pretty well. Again, I mean, this isn't my favorite, but it shows the importance that he has within the world. Technically the universe at that point, but it shows his impact of everything he's accomplished. You know, the cures that he's done, the people that he's affected, from Lois Lane, you know, the big name person in every Superman story that everyone knows when you hear Superman, down to the young lady who was about to commit suicide, and he was like, no, this is enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that he takes the time to help out his love, his buddy Jimmy Olsen, his boss Perry White, the girl who's going to jump off the ledge, all while at the same time he's dealing with these massive labors that he has to accomplish before he dies of super sun cancer. Yeah. And then in the meantime, he's also, you know, has a sanctuary for all the Bizarro animals in the Fortress of Solitude. And he's immortalizing Zabaro's poetry so that his voice can be heard from then on. He's helping the bottle city of Kandor. I mean, he's just doing it all. Mm-hmm. This is like, it's so important what he does. And this book really shows that.
Yeah.
I think that's the best. That's my favorite aspect of the book, is really depicting like the grand impact that Superman has on everyone around him. Like it's why he's the superhero, right?
Yeah.
And everything superhero, I mean, I think most people would first think Superman. That's in my opinion anyway.
Yeah. And I really like how they magnify Superman in all in all of his greatness without comparing him to other superheroes or other Justice Leaguers. None of them show up in this book. And I think that says a lot because you still get the impact of how amazing Superman is and how important he is without having to compare him to other people. This is an amazing book, and I will include a link in the description to where you can buy it below. But that's going to wrap up our video today. We want to thank Rockhouse Brewing once again for sponsoring today's video. I will include links to their website and all their social media in the description below as well. Question of the week. What does Superman mean to you? Make sure you leave your answer in the comments below. And as always, you can find our social media and all links for those in the description below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll catch you at the Oblivion Bar.
A large fresh orange juice, please.